Good morning, everybody. It's actually afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. God, it's really echoey in here. I just thought I would do another little video, kind of like an anniversary video. I've done 203 miles. I've had the Ami for about a month now. I've been driving it sort of every other day to and from nursery. So I've got a pretty good idea what the Ami's like to own, to look after, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to do a good, bad, ugly. Is that what they say? The good, the bad, the ugly? But I'm going to do it the ugly, the bad, the good. And we'll try to have a little tiny high at the end, but a little small one. So I wanted to talk about my experience overall, the good and the bad, because I think some people have been saying, oh, Anthony, you're moaning a lot, you're complaining. And I think all I'll say is this: when you've spent £8,000-9,000 of your own money on a little vehicle, regardless of what it stands for, it shouldn't leak. And I think you've got a right to complain, especially when the service has been bad. On the other side as well, I'm over 40. And when you're over 40, most men moan. And my wife tells me I'm really good at moaning. And I'm probably better at moaning than I am at making videos. So I do moan a little bit, but I only moan when it's justified. So I'm going to start off with the very worst stuff first, and then we'll go through to the good stuff, because there is some good stuff, and I certainly would never say it to anybody, don't buy an Ami. That's definitely not what I'm saying. So I'm going to start off with the ugly stuff. And for me, the ugly stuff has been the service. Straight away, it's been the service. The service has been abysmal. It's hard to really fathom, but like, Citroen is a massive global company. And the Ami seems to be like a subsidiary of Citroen, where they're manufacturing in Morocco via another subsidiary. They have what seems to be a little sort of subsidiary team with Citroen looking after the Ami sales. And I think, to be honest, like somebody said in the comments, which thank you very much for all the comments, by the way. This guy also said that, they seem to be overwhelmed by the rollout. And I think that's true. I think they're basically overwhelmed. They're not responding to people. Everything seems a bit disorganized. And for me, it was a bit of a joke. Nothing worked. The links didn't work. The communication was really bad. They didn't know where the car was. My dealer didn't know if it was mine or not. So service has been really, really bad. I could let the service go, but the problem has been when you get bad service, it kind of like puts you in a bit of a negative viewpoint. Like if you go into a restaurant, for example, and you end up getting a bad meal or something, you end up sort of having a bit of a bad time, because you don't really enjoy the atmosphere, because the service has been bad, the food's been bad, so it ends up ruining the night. Whereas for me, buying the Citroen Ami is kind of like, the service has kind of ruined the experience for me. So I'm slowly trying to get back in love with it again. So the service is definitely number one, and I think Citroen really needs to learn from this. And I think other people have had similar problems. So I'd love to hear from other people that have the Ami or the equivalents, if they've had similar issues with the service. That's been my biggest gripe. Now, gripe number two has been one that I've obviously talked about a little bit, and it's the leaking in the rain. So if I'm driving in the rain on a wet road, water is seeping in through the sides. Now, I'm not a YouTuber, so I'm just going to grab my phone and I'm going to just point to things, and I'm really sorry, it's not very professional, but basically, will this work? Basically, water is seeping in through this joint here on the door, where the seals are, water's coming up and over, and it's possibly coming in from behind as well. And the leak's quite bad. Water will actually puddle into the floor, so it will go under the mats. It's not good. You don't want a car that leaks. And I think a lot of people would say, give it back, it shouldn't leak. I want to give Citroen an opportunity to repair it, so I can actually get back to driving it, and it'll be dry. I'm a bit confused by the experience I had with the local dealer. They're very nice, I have to say. I believe Worthing Motors are Citroen's oldest UK dealer, and they've been very nice. But I was a bit perplexed when they had the car for 4 or 5 days and they did nothing. They said that they were waiting for an update from Citroen. They could have told me at the beginning. I wouldn't have minded. But I get the feeling that either Citroen's running the clock or something, or they just don't know what to do. Maybe they've got it up in the air and went, oh my God, this thing is like, they've not built this properly. I don't know. So I'm just waiting to hear back about the leak situation. I think if the leak was fixed, I'd feel better. You know, that's the biggest gripe, was the leak. And just build quality in general is, well, it's what you'd expect, I guess, from a subsidiary in Morocco, churning them out, you know, really, really quickly. The problem for me is the fit and finish in the interior is pretty good. The dashboard, all the bits and pieces are pretty good. The issue for me is the quality of some of the things, like the welding is not great. I'll give an example. When I was 20-something, I did a welding class, and I was probably the worst welder in the group. My welding was abysmal. I'm never going to make money from welding. And some of these welds are probably similar to the sort of welding that I did. Now, again, I don't know if you can see some of these welds up here, but some of these welds are really quite poor. There's lots of like weld splatter, and I'm sorry, you probably didn't see that there, but there's just the welding isn't very good. And I believe some other people have said, yes, some of their welding's missing. There's welds missing where they can put their finger into the frame and stuff. And I get the feeling that the Ami isn't built on a traditional production line. I think the Ami is built on a jig. The frame is just on a jig. There's a couple of lads from Morocco, you know, welding away, you know, as fast as they can, churning them out. I just don't think that there is a lot of consistency in the build quality. Some of the welding is really quite poor. And when I take the front and back off, I'm going to explore the welding in more detail. Because for me, Citroen really should have had a better handle on the quality. Because, yeah, some of the welding just doesn't seem great. It just doesn't seem great. So that's the other thing. It's just better the build quality stuff. Guy left a comment this morning as well about, you know, cold temperatures and what he does to combat the cold temperatures. I'm just adjusting my steering wheel because you're on the steering wheel, so it's a bit crooked. The batteries are really low down on the floor outside in a basket, not protected at all. There's no liners, there's nothing. They're just sitting in a basket. The little 12-volt battery sits at the front, so it's literally exposed to the elements, the salt air. We live by the sea here, and we live in a little village called Ferring, so it's really, really close to the sea. So when it's cold, the batteries have no sort of protection from the elements at all. All of the components, all of the wiring, all of the battery terminals, they're all exposed to the elements. And I'm really surprised that they haven't done anything to weather treat them or weatherproof them. So obviously when it's cold, the batteries are like freezing, so they lose a lot of their energy very quickly. So for example, when I drive Ava to nursery in the morning, I've probably lost 4 or 5 miles in the Angel share just from the cold battery temperature. And I know that's probably part of the technology, but I just think that it's something that could have been thought out a bit better, to be honest. So I'm a little bit disappointed by that. So yeah, I think some of the bad build quality stuff could be better. Like the doors rattle quite badly. And things like, for example, the doors are on little nylon straps, so the doors will automatically close. They don't stay open. So if you're climbing in, the door will close behind you, so it's easy to get your leg caught. And it's a bit of a nightmare getting my daughter in because the door just keeps closing. But there are minor little quibbles. Yeah, I can deal with the minor stuff. You know, it's not the end of the world. This is a unique little vehicle, and you're always going to get little quirks with them. I think that's part and parcel of this sort of early adopter, you know, sort of thing. So yeah, build quality has been something that's a little bit hit and miss. Some of the componentry is a bit off, and things, just annoying little things, like for example, the wiper switch is so sensitive, the little knob. When you go to indicate, and if you move your finger 2 millimeters over the stalk by mistake, you'll activate the wiper. So you have to be quite careful when you're activating the wipers as well. They tend to come on by themselves every time I turn left. Obviously the wipers don't auto cancel, but I have learned you can do a three flash sequence when you just press down on the lever left or right, so that's handy as well. The wiper clunks on the screen, like I've talked about, I can maybe adjust it. The other things is condensation. So When it's cold and you sit inside the vehicle, because there's no like insulation or soundproofing or anything like that, all the frames will get a bit wet. So when it's really cold, you will get quite a bit of condensation. And somebody said in the comments that, they've even had water dripping down the roof. I have quite a few cars lying around, and I know what she means. It's like lots of water can drip around. So that's something to look forward to. I think really the summer is going to be where this car really stands out. It's going to be the summertime. And other stuff I've noticed, like the geometry seems a bit odd. Like one side has more wheel clearance than the other. And I've looked at the frame, and the frame doesn't actually extend out to the end of the body. So I'm just wondering, is it the body that's a bit off? Is it just the way it is? I just don't know. If anybody has an Ami, if you could measure the distance between the back wheel and the body, let me know. I'd love to know if yours is a bit different or is mine just unique. Because some people have had seemingly no problems at all with their Amis. They've been really happy. They don't leak. They've got no inherent problems. I'm just wondering if this one was, built on a Friday lunchtime and the guy wanted to get home. Who knows? So yeah, there's been a few little quibbles. The other thing as well is, again, I'm going to try and do this with my phone, so excuse me. So underneath here, under this little strap, there's actually holes, like a hole in the plastic. It might be for ventilation, but when you're driving along in the cold, the freezing air blows through here and it's really cold in your leg. So I've put some Gorilla Tape, gaffer tape over the hole to stop the air. What it's done inadvertently is now the air comes through here really quickly, but it's much better than before. Also, if you wash the Ami, if you jet wash the Ami or use a hose pipe, what will happen is the water can enter the lock mechanism and come through there. So you have to be careful, and it will leave drips of water on the floor as well. So you just have to be careful. There's little foibles you just get used to. And, again, for me, the big thing was just the water getting in. It seems to be there's little sealant on it. When you go underneath, it's basically two plastic panels overlapping each other, and there's a metal frame. That's it. It's very, very simple. When it rains up above, no water gets in. The seals are good, the doors are all good. No water seems to get in. It's only when I'm driving. So, that's some of the things that really annoys me. But, I'll be honest though, despite all the moaning that I've done, I actually really love the Ami. I think it's a really cool little thing. It's just a fabulous looking little thing. I'm going to get out and just have a little show you. But basically, that's the other thing too. Getting in and out can be a bit tricky. Because it's got a suicide door, you end up having to kind of climb around the steering wheel a little bit. There's some guys here flying model airplanes here today. That's cool. So, if you see here, it's a really funky little thing, It's a really funky little tool. I drove over cement, it's got cement on the wheels, but it's a cool looking little thing. I really do enjoy it. It's just a shame that some of the quality stuff it's just a wee bit hit and miss, But apart from all the bad stuff, I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy driving it. It's really, really good fun. You can whiz around town really quickly. It's a real hoot to drive. It's really uncomfortable. It's very cold. You slide around the seats. The seats are really narrow, so your bum and hips get caught in the plastic bits, which, they're quite uncomfortable. But it all doesn't matter because you're grinning so much when you're whizzing around in it. It's just really good fun. It's just, you have to get used to the quirks, like in the colder weather. Now I've noticed as well that when you're driving off the driveway, you can hear all the rubbers creaking and groaning, especially around the steering. It's just the way it is. It's a very simple vehicle and I do love it. I just wish the service was better. I just wish it didn't leak. But hey, that's just the way it goes. I'm not just here to moan and hate on it all the time. I don't want people to think this guy just moans. I've got a few other cars. I could moan about them all, and maybe I will. Who knows? But I would say to anybody that wants to buy an Ami, go ahead and get an Ami. Just give it all the checks before you take ownership. Check for rust. Check that it doesn't leak. Even ask the guy to hose it down, hose it underneath. Just get it checked. Make sure everything's good. Make sure the doors don't rattle too much. Make sure that you're happy with everything. Because the problem is the Citroen dealer makes a very nominal sum. They only make a small amount of money, £200-300. They're simply just passing the vehicle to you. So they're just keen to give you the vehicle. They don't really want to be attached too much to the vehicle itself. So, do that. Say, look, I want to make sure it's all good. I want to check that it doesn't leak. I want to check that the door's closed properly. And I should mention too, which I nearly forgot, the day that I picked this Ami up, the passenger door opened by itself when I went round the corner and it swung open. The door was closed. It may not have been closed properly. It hasn't done it since. But there was a recall for the lock, and the Citroen dealer wants to replace the latch because they think it could have been an issue. So there has been a culmination of issues with this Ami, and I'm hoping that will be the end of it. But you know, I still would say check it over properly, and be advised as well, guys, this isn't a vehicle for the winter. The range is very hit and miss. The WLTP range is way, way off. You know, just this morning, I've travelled 2 miles. It's took 4.5, maybe 5 miles off the counter already. It's about 9 degrees this afternoon. So take the range with a pinch of salt. In the summer, they say you will get roughly 1 mile per 1 mile of loss on the battery. So I think that'll be the case. But when it's colder, you know, I'll be honest, I can only do 3 4.3 mile trips in a row. Once that battery gets below 15, it will go into low power mode all the time. It just beeps and it won't let me go any faster than 15 miles per hour. I have to pull in, turn the ignition off, put the ignition back on, and then I can get it up to speed again. But look, when you're on the road, people are driving so fast in the UK. And I'm sorry, people from the UK, although we know the wheels have fallen off this country, but people in the UK now, they drive so fast, they're aggressive, they've got no patience. So when you're cruising along and all of a sudden you drop down to 15 miles per hour, it's pretty scary, even when you're in a 30 zone. I got overtaken twice yesterday in a 30 zone. And you've got to be mindful of that. The battery, you know, it's going to be at its best in the summer. If you can keep it in a heated garage, I think that will solve a lot of your problems. It really will. So just be mindful, weigh up the pros and the cons before you take the plunge. If I knew what I knew now, would I still have bought the Ami? Probably not. I'll be honest, I don't know if I would have. I think I ordered the car the first time round, and then I cancelled it because the price went up. And then I thought to myself, you know, I'm going to buy another one. I went to Milan. I saw it at ECMA. I'm in the motorbike. I make motorbike gloves. And I thought, you know, I really like it, so I'm going to buy it. So I did everything. But looking back now, you know, it's not been a very smooth thing. And I probably wouldn't have done it. I'd probably buy a small economical petrol car. However, the reason I bought the Ami is what it stands for. This will give you clean transport from A to B. It's eco-friendly. It's fully recyclable. And it's cool. People stop and stare. They want to chat to you about it. And I really enjoy that part of it. You know, for an £8,000 vehicle, it gets a lot of attention. So, you know, I wouldn't be put off. Go for it. You know, go for it. And if you want any advice, please drop me a message below. I'll respond to everybody. And, you know, I'll do all I can to give you advice. And if there's anything you want to know at all about the Ami, just send me a message or drop me a comment and I will do everything I can to give you the answer that you need. So I've rattled on for 17, 18 minutes now, so I feel sorry for you. So I'm going to go and pick up my daughter from nursery. Have a great day, and I will see you on the next one when I start taking this thing apart and I'm going to show you how it's built. You take care. Bye, everyone. Bye.